Welcome to the Hoof and Fang podcast. I'm Kirt Graves.
And I'm Maz Maddox.
And here we are, another week. It is June.
Yes, it is.
How you doing?
Good. It's going weirdly good so far.
Okay.
I got some good family news. I'm going back to Texas in 2 weeks. I'm getting a new tattoo next week. Yeah. So it's like June is so
Busting
far.
out all over.
Exactly.
You don't probably get that reference.
No.
It's a musical.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
One of these days we're going to do that thing that we talked about where we exchange movies and go watch whatever movie we're assigned and then converge. So I'm assuming my musical education will begin then.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a ton I haven't seen that I know are awesome. Just, how it is.
And some that are terrible but are still fun.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite, because those are some of my favorite horror movies, are the really, really shitty ones that are just so bad that you're like, this is terrible, but I love it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, off topic.
Yeah.
It's going good.
What we're talking about, listeners, is an idea we had for the podcast that was perhaps we would watch things that we would not normally watch because Maz watches horror movies and I don't.
Yeah.
And I watch musicals and she doesn't.
Right. So
if we made each other watch the things that we don't usually watch.
Yeah, exactly. It would.
And then capture it for posterity.
I think that'd be fun. So one of these days we'll get to that. But
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll wedge it in on the other 4,000 things we have going on.
Right.
But yeah. What about you? How's your week going? Or your June, I guess.
Good. I went down to Milwaukee this weekend to help a friend with a home project, and I actually went bar hopping.
Oh, really?
In the gay scene down in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And I was very tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. I probably would be too. I think after the second bar past 8 o'clock, I'd be like, we're about done, right?
No, we weren't. We were nowhere close to done.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I stayed up late and that's about all I remember about the experience.
Oh,
Other than following my friend around as he tried to hit on people and I was like, married.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I immersed myself in gay culture for a few hours and found that it was not for me.
Yeah. Well, it's probably much younger crowd too, because
actually, yeah, a lot of the places we went, there were people in their 30s, 40s, 50s.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So yeah, it was not like young club hopper sort of situation.
Oh, okay, cool.
It was bars, not clubs.
Okay,
so,
fair. Yeah, because in my head I was thinking 21 to 25-year-olds just losing their fucking mind. So
no.
Yeah, that would have been
I would not have said yes to going to something like that.
Fair enough.
I barely said yes to going to the things I did go to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a long night. But I was gay for the weekend.
Gay for the weekend, just the weekend. Though.
Once again.
Yeah.
Yep. Dipped my toe back in the gay social scene and was like, great.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
I think I probably would have loved to do that had I given had a full day ahead of time to sleep, take some leave, stretch, that kind of stuff, hydrate. But yeah, if it was after a home renovation project and then going out to a bar, holy shit, that's so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's a lot.
What are we working on?
So I'm still in the throes of working on book 3. Book 2, I'm almost done with the blurb, and actually Chloe Archer has been helping me with the blurbs, and she's amazing.
Yay, Chloe Archer.
Yeah, so she actually offered her services because I was complaining on social media, as you do, and she was like, yeah, I actually like doing blurbs, so if you want to bounce ideas, I'm here. And I was like, great. So I sent her what I had, and she sent back a revision, and it was amazing and funny and captured the vibe and
Great.
Built on it. And I was like, holy shit, you're amazing. I was like, you don't understand. You've just opened Pandora's box because now I'm going to be hassling you for blurbs for the rest of my life. So that's
blurb work.
Yes.
Blurb work. Blurb work.
That's the sound it makes is about how I feel about blurbs. Blurb.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's, I'm hoping to maybe get that done by Friday so I can actually push the pre-order live and have that just out in the world finally, which is fun. So yes. And then the other thing is I'm kind of waiting on the Patreon poll to wrap up so I can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing next for the Patreon.
Yes. How long do people have to?
Until the 10th. So I think I'm letting it run through next Monday, and then Tuesday I'll pull the results and declare a winner.
You heard it here first, guys. In our Patreon, you can vote for what the next Relic short story is going to be.
That'll be fun. I also tossed in Ethan and Jag, just like they're not part of Relic, but I was like, just in case.
Just in case. You know, if anybody's interested.
I think it's probably like right now it's neck and neck between Montana and Henry and Baja and Jackson. Okay. So those are the guys leading the race. So unless there's like a flood of people coming in and like knocking them down, I think it's going to be one of those couples. So we'll see.
We'll find out. What am I working on, you say?
Yes. What are you working on, Kirt?
I wrapped up the third book in the Teachers in Love series. I actually finished recording it before I left for Phoenix, but we've wrapped up the whole production. I think the book came out this week.
Okay.
It's called Napkins and Other Distractions. It's the third book.
I think it did,
I think it came out this week. And the audiobook is wrapped and done and approved. So
awesome.
That should be coming very soon.
Yeah. Awesome.
We'll see how long that takes to come out in the world of ACX. And then other than that, I am just getting to work. I was just doing the pronunciations prep for Mandrake Manor with a friend of show, JP Rindflesh. I'm recording that. And then I'm just finishing up some other, contemporary romances all before I leave for Portland.
Nice.
In a couple weeks. So
very cool.
Once again, facing that deadline of like, shit's got to get done.
Yeah.
Before I leave on this date. And then that's that.
Yeah.
So, and then also I am about to finish up Only Skin Deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the sixth and penultimate episode came out this week, Tuesday, yes. This week, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Jesus. Shit comes out so many days a week.
I know.
I'm like, what day is it? So it came out Tuesday. The final episode will be coming out next week, Tuesday, and we will have wrapped that project. We will then bundle that up as a traditional audiobook, and it will end up going to BookFunnel and to anyone who was a member at the Dear Listener level at any point during the run of that audiobook. So make sure to reach out to us if you think you should be getting one after next week. And if you didn't,
yes, for sure,
let us know, because we will be figuring this out for the first time and hopefully exporting the right list of people to get the book.
Exactly.
But I thought also then we need to talk about what's coming up next.
Yeah.
So when we made this change, we talked about the fact that we would be able to really think about doing sequels because we no longer had to care as much about how the first book did.
Right.
And so here comes our first sequel. We're going to be doing the sequel to 3 Meant to Be, which is titled Two Who Live On by M.N. Bennett.
I'm excited.
So we're going back to magic school.
Yeah, magic school.
Yeah, magic school. So that will be coming up next. So the first episode of Two Who Live On is going to come out Tuesday, June 25th. So that means if you're paying close attention, we are taking 1 week off.
Yeah.
And coming back the following week.
Yeah,
so and if you're wondering why, the comprehensive listeners will remember that I just said I will be going on another vacation.
Yes.
And so that is why we're taking a week off, because I need to not record while on the road. Yes. And that's basically what would have had to happen, because there's no time.
Yeah.
So we'll just pick that back up, take a 1 week break. And as we talked about, I don't hate that as a philosophy of taking a short
break. Yeah.
Just 1 week off in between projects to have time to
catch up and
figure out what the next thing is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Prep, know?
Yeah.
So it's not so many things happening on top of each other. So I don't know. Maybe that becomes a thing. Maybe it's not. We'll find out.
Yeah. But we're playing it by ear. It's our podcast. We do what we want.
Right. So June 25th, you can look forward to the first episode of Two Who Live On. And then that runs, I think, for 7 weeks as well. I think that was the same number of weeks.
Okay, sweet.
But I don't know that for sure. I suppose I could look. Look at this. Look at this. I have a
Do you have it all broken down?
Right here. Yeah. Nice. Yes, it is 7 weeks.
Okay, perfect.
So, and then towards the end of that run, we'll announce what's next. We do already know it. We know what's coming up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is. So, so this week, we're going to talk about one thing. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to do a preview of what we're talking about in a couple of weeks because June is Pride Month.
Yes.
And so obviously at some point, we as a podcast, this is our first Pride, we're going to do something Pridey.
Yes.
And so we've decided that is going to be the episode that comes out on June 21st. Mm-hmm. So don't get all up in our business about why aren't we talking about Pride now that it's June. It's coming.
Yes.
Okay.
We got a plan. We got to do stuff.
Right.
We got things in the works.
We have the start of a plan.
Yeah. The plan has been pitched in the office.
Yes.
And us going, we'll figure it out. And then that was kind of the
exactly. So we are doing a Pride themed episode on June 21st. Yes. But for those who don't know, June is also Audiobook Month.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're talking about today.
You know what's kind of fun that I'm thinking about it?
No.
For June 1st was National Dinosaur Day. And June is also Audiobook Month.
Uh-huh.
And it's Pride Month. It's all of our worlds. June is very special.
Everyone go buy Relic. Yes. Go buy the entire series. It's your duty to buy the whole series during June.
Yes, it's important.
Dinosaur Day, Pride, Audiobook Month.
That's your sign.
Yeah.
That is the universe coming together to say gay dinosaurs in audiobook form.
Yes.
And we have that.
Yes. I agree.
Anyway, sorry, derailed us.
No, that's good. That's good information. So I thought we chat about audiobooks for a little bit, starting with some softball questions, which is, do you remember your first audiobook?
So I had to really reach back because I wanted to say my first one was Wolf Song. It wasn't. I think Wolf Song was the first one that made me really love audiobooks. But my very first one was actually the audiobook for the very first Song of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones series. And I was not a fan. So I had downloaded it because I was driving for like 5 hours and I had already read the books, but I was going to reread them again because me and Jess do that a lot. And so I downloaded it and I was so excited and I played it and was like, oh no, I don't like this. But I was stuck with it because I was in the time of, this is years and years ago. I had it on my iPod because the car I had didn't have a radio. So I had committed to like deleting a bunch of shit off my iPod and putting this huge ass book on this stupid device. And then I didn't like it. And then I didn't really have a lot of music to cycle through. So I had like just 30, 40 minutes of music I just repeated forever because I didn't like the audiobook. No. But yeah, it was not a pleasant experience, which is a bummer. I just didn't like the narrator. But Wolf Song though, like when I got into like MM Romance and really dove into those, Wolf Song was the one that I was like, oh shit, I love this. So yeah.
Now, would you like to describe in detail what you liked so much about it?
Want me? I know you hate that actually. If I'm like, it made me cry and I love it and you're wonderful and you're like, no, don't do that. We don't do that.
I mean, but it is good for my brand if that's out there in the world.
Exactly. So. Well, if I haven't already gushed about it, it was the first audiobook that ever made me cry. I had already read the book, right? Like I knew what was coming and it's still when the part happened. I just got to work and I had to park and sit in my car for 20 minutes because I was a fucking mess. I was like crying because it's a different experience when you're reading it in your head to where it's being performed into your ears, and it was gut wrenching. So I was like texting Jess being like, I can't come inside because I'm sobbing. And she's like, oh no. So like she had
Is everything okay?
Yeah. And I was like, fucking Wolf Song. Yeah. But yeah, she had to cover for me at work for a little bit before I could actually go in. But yeah, it was amazing. And so that was one of the things that like kicked off my obsession with audiobooks after that. Like it's been a journey since then. But yeah, that was my favorite. Still is, I think, my all-time favorite.
Yeah. I was actually trying to think. I mean, I'm sure at some point in my life I listened to a book on tape or something like that as a kid.
Right.
But the real introduction to audiobooks that I remember is when I was a traveling salesperson and I was doing those really long drives to get to, like as far as, Alabama and Louisiana from Wisconsin. And so also on my iPod, which I had the one where you like twisted the thing and it was like the clicker, and sometimes that would not work, and it was like the worst thing in the world because I'd just be like smashing it to try to get it to go to where I needed it to go.
Right.
But I, through iTunes, bought The Sword of Truth, the first whatever the first book in that series is by Terry Goodkind.
Okay.
The Sword of Truth series. And I think I liked the story fine, but mostly it was just something to keep me occupied. Because I also really was like an NPR fan, and they would sometimes have like authors come on and read parts of books, and I always enjoyed that. So I was like, oh, I bet I would like audiobooks.
Yeah.
And I did. I enjoyed the story. But the one that I came across that ended up really converting me to like loving audiobooks was A Discovery of Witches.
Okay.
Which was narrated by Jennifer Akeda, written by Deborah Harkness. And it was like, that was truly like the story came to life in my mind the way Jennifer read that book.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this is what audiobooks can be.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no sound effects or anything. There's no, like, it's not a multicast. It's one person just reading a book.
Yeah.
But really like grounding it, making it feel real, making it like, and yet cinematic in your head. Like the language was great. The reading was great.
Yeah.
And that's why I from the very beginning, I have said people who like Wolfsong owe that experience to A Discovery of Witches, because that was what I mimicked.
Yeah.
Was like that listening experience.
Yeah. We definitely nailed it, because it was, there's no sound effects in any, I don't think I've listened to a single audiobook that has Foley or like background music or noises or anything. And I'm sure it's really cool. I'm sure I'd actually probably really like it, but I don't know. It just doesn't, if it's well done and the narrator is performing, it doesn't need that, in my opinion. It's just
it
magical.
is fun to play with, though.
Oh, for sure.
Because I did do the short stories for the Green Creek series released in the Clunatics podcast feed.
Yeah.
And for Feral Song, I added a bunch of effects and music. Because it was just so cinematic that I was like,
yeah,
let's do this. And also it was like 4 different stories all together. And it was like, well, let's add some something to differentiate.
Yeah.
Give each of these their own mood.
Yeah, for sure.
And even like, I don't like going back and listening to myself. And even I sometimes will be like, I'm going to listen to Feral Song.
Yeah.
Like the way, like, I just like the way that that worked.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's okay to do every now and again.
Yeah.
It's fun. So, why do we think audiobooks keep growing in popularity?
You know, that's a good question. I would imagine it's because so many of us are just busy. Like people who are book nerds, just, at least in my experience, I have so many more projects going on in my life now than ever before. So the only time I really get a chance to enjoy stories at this point is when I'm driving or when I'm doing the day job kind of stuff. So I can get a chance of really enjoying a story while getting the multitude of shit that I just have to get done in a day.
Right.
Like it's much harder for me now to sit down and commit time to reading. And I miss it at times, being able to just sit down with a book and just like be immersed into it. But it's way easier for me to kind of get jolted out of it, because like Alex will ask me a question or I'll be cat screaming or whatever. But if I'm doing the dishes, moving around, and people leave me alone, I can listen to my book and still enjoy things. So I would imagine a good chunk of it is just so many of us have so many things going on that it's just easier to still enjoy a story while doing your laundry and just getting other things like that done.
Yeah, I think convenience is a big factor.
Yeah.
And even for people who still enjoy reading a physical book or an ebook, like they will often supplement that with audiobook listening, because it's something they can do. They can be reading even while cooking dinner.
Yeah.
Or cleaning the house or doing lawn work or commuting.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I think convenience is a big factor. I also think like audiobooks have just gotten better.
Oh, big time.
Like
yeah,
for the longest time, the style was just very much like reading it out loud. Like you were just gathering the information. And as it has turned into more of a performance art,
right?
I do think like that's part of why it's more popular.
Yeah,
is people feel like it's true entertainment, like its own form of entertainment, above and beyond the entertainment of reading a book. So it's like you get creativity on top of creativity.
Yeah.
And it creates this really cool chemistry.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it, because like, when I was, not to shit on it again, but that Game of Thrones book, the narrator was just kind of reading it. He didn't really do voices and stuff. So and I think this book was already pretty old before I picked it up, and this was 11, 12 years ago. So it's been leaps and bounds. I feel like every year we get like a new explosion of more audiobooks with like performance art behind it instead of just an old dude with a microphone.
Right.
So Yeah, that's
well, and people are experimenting more and more with things like sound effect and multicast.
Yeah.
And dual narrations and
yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I think as the art form becomes more popular, it also advances, and also because it's advancing, it becomes more popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Some controversial questions surrounding audiobooks.
Yeah. Here we go.
Here we go. Is listening to audiobooks reading?
I think it is. I know I know it's not physically reading it with your eyeballs, but you're still intaking the story. You're still listening to the prose, the way the sentences are structured. I still consider it reading because we don't really have a good word that means both, really. I mean, you can say listening, but it's not the same as reading per se. It's messy. The language is messy.
Right.
So, but I would consider it still absorbing the story the same way as reading a book would be.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes easier for, I'm dyslexic. So it amazes me if I listen to an audiobook that I catch things that I misread. So, cause I'll flip things around or my eyes will skip over things. Cause I try to with dyslexic brains, you try to autofill what you're reading and sometimes your brain gets it wrong. So I will just absolutely misunderstand something if I read it, if I'm trying to go really fast. Whereas if I'm listening to it, I won't do that.
Right.
So it's just goofy. But I think it's reading.
Yeah.
I assume you probably feel the same.
Of course it's fucking reading.
Of course
Jesus
it's
Christ.
fucking reading.
And I mean, obviously I feel strongly about this. I think it is ableist to suggest anything otherwise.
Right.
But one of my favorite recent responses that I've seen on the internet is, somebody who says well, you're not reading, you're just listening. And it's well, then you're not reading, you're just looking.
I like that.
Because the activity is reading. The method is looking at a page or listening to an audiobook.
Right.
Both are valid methods of achieving the activity of reading.
Right.
Because the exact same thing is happening in your brain when you're taking information either from the page or from an audio file.
Right.
So if I'm not reading because I'm listening, then you're not reading because all you're doing is looking.
Yeah, I like that. Well, and I don't understand why people get so hoity-toity about that crap. They're who cares? Honestly, who cares? They're just being shits. But, you know, that's just people. Yeah. That could just be human rights in general. They're just being shits.
They're just being shits.
Yeah.
So, it's two different methods, both perfectly valid.
Yeah, 100%.
So there are probably other methods. Braille is a method of reading.
Yeah, that's still reading.
It's you're not reading, you're just touching. Would you ever say that to an actual
I hope not.
Come on.
Give me a break.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's not reading. If you're not looking at it with your eyes,
I hope they can hear them well enough to punch them if they say that.
Right?
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Oof.
Is it okay not to either buy an audiobook or to start it and not finish it if you don't like the narration or the narrator?
I think so. I mean, that happens. It can sometimes just not be your jam. You just don't connect with the way that they're reading or the voices that they've selected for those characters. And that's their interpretation as an artist, as a narrator. And it's not going to land with everyone. So if you listen to it and it's not for you, that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't be a jerk about it. Just don't buy it.
Yeah.
I think that's totally fine.
I think my preference would be that everybody gives a particular narrator maybe 3 chances. And give some time in between those tries. Because narrators can grow, they can get better, their styles can change.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is just a matter of matching. Did we match the right person with the right book? And if not, then it can be a struggle. And sometimes it is just a matter of personal taste. And it's I don't like the way this person narrates audiobooks, and I've given them 3 chances over the course of 3 years. And I think I can really just definitively say, I don't enjoy the way this person works. Yeah. Absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think
there are people like that out in the world who think that about me. So totally fine to allow the narration or the narrator to help guide your decision whether or not to buy the audiobook or whether or not to finish it. And you should never feel bad about stopping a book if you're not enjoying it.
Well, that goes for everything. Audiobooks, regular, or reading paper books, whatever. If you start something and you don't like it, it's okay you don't like it.
Right.
It's allowed. And we're granting you permission to either listen to a sample or something and be no, thank you. That's it.
Unless someone is paying you to read that book.
Yes. Unless, they're paying you, but.
You can stop.
Yeah, exactly.
You can stop. Controversial question number 3. Is it okay to listen to audiobooks at a faster speed?
You know what's funny is that I, for the longest time, assumed when you did that, it made the voice sound like a chipmunk or something. You know what I mean? Like when you like the comedic way too fast.
It will eventually.
Yeah, if you bump it up to like a crazy amount. So for a long time, I could not wrap my brain around that when somebody's like, oh, I listened to it at 2x or something. It's like, why would you do that? And then I actually listened to it at 2x and was like, oh, it sounds the same. They just go faster. So I was like, okay, that's totally fine. Especially for these people who knock it, like they have a long commute or it's a reread or something and they're just tearing through audiobooks. Sure, who cares? And sometimes, you get those narrators that just talk really slow and sometimes you're going to bump them up. So I don't personally, but I can see why people are into it. But yeah, I think as long as it doesn't distort the voice, I'm like, yeah, sure, why not?
Sure. Yeah.
What about you?
My feelings are complicated.
Really? Okay.
If you are listening for your own enjoyment, do whatever the hell you want to do. Because again, it's about your enjoyment. If you're enjoying it, however you enjoy the book, do that.
Okay.
Fine.
Sure.
If you are critiquing the book in some sort of publication or blog, or even just like as an online reviewer, if you have a following as like an influencer.
Yeah.
I think if you are listening to an audiobook and reviewing it and you're listening to it at anything other than the speed at which it was published, you at least have an obligation to communicate that to your audience.
That's fair.
Because it has been done where reviewers will complain about something. And then months later, in a totally separate comment or a different thing, they'll be like, oh yeah, I always listen at 1.75. And it's like, well, ma'am, back here, you said this person talked so fast you couldn't understand them. Or like you complained about somebody's diction or like not being able to tell characters apart. And it's like, perhaps part of the problem is that you were listening at 1.75. And I just think when that's the case, you should disclose that.
Yeah.
Like, because you didn't listen to it the way it was intended.
Yeah.
Because pacing is one of the main ways that we as narrators can help to move the story along, help to differentiate characters. Like, pacing is such a critical tool that if you're going to fuck with it, you have to say something if you're also passing judgment on it.
That's fair.
So that's my feeling. But again, if it's for your own personal enjoyment, and if you're just writing a review on Audible, like for other readers, sort of like we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Again, do whatever you want to do.
Sure.
That's a reader space. That's you being a reader and enjoying the story. And if you're just there to get the information, just to have the words put in your head, and you don't really care about the style, do what you want to do to enjoy an audiobook. It's just it's when people review it and are lifted up as some sort of expert, and then they don't disclose that, like, oh, I didn't actually listen to it at like the intended speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So I still feel like that. For a while, I was like, if you're going to listen to it, just don't review it. Because you didn't listen to the audiobook. You listened to an augmented version of the audiobook.
Yeah.
And I got called out on that online. And I was like, okay, I'll rethink that position.
Okay.
Let's maybe meet in the middle and say that if you were reviewing something where you've augmented it, at least say that you augmented it.
Right.
So that's clear.
I think that's totally fair. Yeah.
So. Okay. All right. So those were our controversial questions. If you really love an audiobook, how can you celebrate it?
I mean, I think the obvious thing is gush to your friends about it. Like, if I really, really enjoy an audiobook, I will tell at least 5 people that I know who also enjoy the audiobooks and be like, go buy this now kind of thing to help spread the word. If I was a little bit more present online, I think I'd also make it a big like celebrate on reels and stuff like that and really like push it. Because even if a book's been out for a long time, if I'm tardy to the party and I just got to it, you can still be like, oh, this is great. I know it's been out for 5 years, but I just found it and it's great. Maybe other people didn't know about it or didn't realize how well it was performed or whatever. So yeah, I would say tell all your friends. And if you're a social media person, just make a post about it and help just kind of get it in front of new eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And when posting, tag the author, tag the narrator.
Yeah.
Take the time to find the narrator if you can.
Yeah, for sure.
You'd be surprised how many people I encounter who, when they find out what I do, will say like, "Oh, I love audiobooks," and say, "Oh, great, what's the last one you listened to?" And they'll tell me who, like, what it was and who it was written by, and I'll be like, "Oh, who was the narrator?"
Yeah,
no idea.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That is the nature of what we do.
Yeah.
But if you really love something and you're talking about it on the internet, let us know. Like, tag us.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's so good for both the author and it's great for the narrator to be able to like whenever somebody, I shouldn't say whenever. Most of the time when I'm tagged in a post about my work, I will add it to my story or like retweet it. Like I try to help promote the person who's promoting me.
Yeah.
But also it's just great for me as a freelancer to be putting it out there in the world that here's people who enjoy my work.
Yeah, for sure. It helps everybody.
Yeah. And if you're not a social media person, it's also really great to hear from readers sometimes.
Yeah. You know? Just like shoot them an email kind of thing.
If you're not like a public praise type of person, you can at least build up the artist who made it, which can have immeasurable benefits.
Oh, yeah.
By just sending a quick message on social media or find their website and submit question through their form or whatever means they have of being contacted. We should all be able to be contacted because that's what people find us to hire us.
Right.
Email them, submit a form. Let them know if you enjoyed it. When people do that for me, it is always wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, those are amazing. I've gotten a couple just over the years of people just being like, I just want to send you a quick note. I really enjoyed your book. Hope you have a good day.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be elaborate. You just say you had a good time with it.
Right.
And that makes my whole freaking week, you know? So I imagine that's with most people. Just a quick like, hey, you're doing a good job. You did that well.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to write them an essay. Yeah.
It really helps, you know? So, yeah. Final question about audiobooks. Do you have any recommendations that we haven't already talked about on the podcast at some point in the past?
I was about to say, I think all the ones I really enjoyed, I've like freaked out on the podcast previously. I mean, I can't sing, obviously, all the Wolf, everything you do is amazing.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll start with that. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure you'd be like, what are you doing? So yeah, all of your stuff. But then also the Locked Tomb series, Moira Cork does the narration for that. And she's like
that's the Gideon the Ninth.
Yeah. That series, I don't think I can read it now. I have to listen to it. Like I'm in love with how she does all of the narration and the voices and the characters so much. So yeah, if you like lesbians in space, necromancy kind of stuff, the audiobooks are amazing. So yeah, that's I think the last one that I read, that wasn't yours, that I just was like, this is so good. It's so fun. And like, I just like was totally immersed in this fucking story. So yeah, that would be my gold star.
Absolutely. I mean, I think listeners of our podcast would really enjoy A Discovery of Witches. Yeah. It's not explicitly queer, but there's definitely queer elements. And it's magic and it's witches and it's time travel and vampires and happily ever after.
Or listen to it.
It's like, so I think I don't think I've talked about that on the podcast before today.
Okay.
Highly recommend that 3-book series. And I also really enjoy Andy Weir's audiobooks.
Yeah.
So The Martian.
Oh, really?
And his last one was Project Hail Mary.
Okay.
Again, not queer, but like for little science nerds. Like I imagine that book was fantastic if you read it. But they did such a great job of doing that in audio.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil anything, but like there is a part of that book that I can't imagine how they did it on the page. I just can't.
We may have to talk about it offline because I read the book.
It has everything to do with sound.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did they do this on the page?
Yeah. Interesting.
Because,
Okay,
like,
we're going to have to talk about it. Because I read it when me and Jess used to be super nerds and we were part of the Planetary Society. We did a book club for it and we read The Martian, and that book, it's fucking
I'm not talking about The Martian. I'm talking about Project Hail Mary.
Oh, never mind. I haven't read that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's the one where I'm like, how did they do this on the page?
Interesting. Okay.
It works so well
Cool.
in audio that I'm like, how did they do that? And so it's one of those times where I think the listening experience just has to be better.
Okay.
Because of that element.
Nice.
So, yeah. So that's another, I mean, I talk about audiobooks all the time. If I like something, I tweet about it. I post about it.
Yeah.
I wish I had more time to enjoy audiobooks just for fun.
Yeah.
You know?
That's tricky.
I also have the unfortunate reality of this now being my work. So even when I'm listening for fun, I'm like half listening with a critical ear, and I have to kind of like be like, stop that.
Yeah.
Stop that.
I do that too. Because the pros or something will be so amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, why can't I do that? That's amazing. I should try this. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, like, just enjoy the story, dude. Just enjoy it. So
it's hard.
So yeah, so follow us on social media if you want more recommendations, because we certainly do post about the things we like there.
Yes,
And
yes, we do.
Yeah, yeah. And if you like audiobooks, but you haven't listened to any of ours yet.
First of all, how dare you?
What are you doing? Hopefully this is the first episode of the podcast you're ever listening to.
Yes.
But we have produced to date 7 audiobooks that are complete, where it's about to be 8 after next week. And all of those are available on our online store, which you can link to through our website, hoofandfangpodcast.com. And because it is Pride Month and Audiobook Month, we are offering 25% off the entire store for all of June. Just use code AudioPride24. So enter that at checkout and you'll get 25% off your entire order. 7 audiobooks. It's soon to be 8 before the end of June. So go check that out.
For sure.
So that was our celebration of audiobooks for June is Audiobook Month. We will be back next week to talk about something that's not Pride, because that's coming later.
Yes. I feel like we're still going to get messages. They're like passive aggressive, like, oh, tweeting it for Pride.
Yeah.
Audiobook Month. That's cool.
Yeah. But we thank you for joining us anyways.
Of course.
Even if you leave snarky comments, it's all good.
Yeah.
You know, we actually like snark.
I know. I was about to say,
we
roll our eyes, but really we think it's great.
Yeah. So you can find the podcast all over social media just by searching Hoof and Fang, or you can, again, go to our website, hoofandfangpodcast.com. There are links to all of our social media there. And that's also where you can find a link to our Patreon, where lots of cool stuff is happening behind the scenes. That's where we keep the really good stuff.
Yes, yes.
So join us there as well. And we will be back next week.
See you then.
Bye.